Yahoo! Prof here, and we've got another video for you, and it's a big one. Well, mostly big. That's the previous video we just did. I don't have enough room. In the meantime, though, and you'll see why, or know from the video title, what we need to do is... What? My PC is unable to run this test? Why? I need a card that supports DirectX 10 Ultimate. The fuck? I think 3D Mark just goofed. I may have changed HDR modes while it was launching. Let's let it figure that out. 4070 Ti in here, guys. We want some hard numbers as to what I'm pulling right now. And yes, I turned HDR off because it can affect the benchmarks. And usually when we benchmark, we're over here on the ye olde Scepter 4K 60 hertz over here, which does not have HDR. Why do we need those numbers? Well, there's a new guy in here. Benefit to making videos for you guys. I have literally heard of people opening graphics cards and them being fake, swapped out, etc. Well, it's going to be right here on video, and I've done it for some other products where I'm like, oh, you don't believe me? Well, here, I literally have it on camera. I'm trying to just find a clean temporary spot to put. Fine, I'll use the windowsill. Don't like doing that though, because Paisley's going to come in here and TKO all my tools. So I have to put those away sooner rather than later. I did reach out to Chad's toolbox. He gave me a label, and I can send back the one that was wrong. Did hear from one of you guys that this guy, the SO2 variant on the International, where it has those teeth on there, this has nip extend grips on the International site. I did go there. I had to navigate in French. It's a good thing I know what non is. Non. Because they keep trying to redirect me to stuff. No, I don't know French, but let's just say I've redirected there enough times to know some basic stuff. Enough to navigate a website. So we're putting those there temporarily. Alright, so this is running now. Don't want to hit stop. Benchmarks. Yeah, 3D Mark was drunk probably because I was changing HDR while it was launching. And you're probably like, well, why gotta run that? Well, I want to know how much better the thing that is going to be in there is going to be. Oh, and if you guys haven't seen the video on this, this is my Streamlight Wedge SL. I think that's slim, maybe. Little carpenter pencil sized light. That's the mouthpiece on there. I'm gonna leave it on there because it does make it nice. You can drop it also without worrying about it. Oh, let's go Speedway. I don't know that I have time to do all the benchmarks. Also, the 4070 Ti is probably going to go right into Chibi PC, pretending I can get it to fit. And I believe a very similar card to this is what Shane had at work when he got his 4070 Ti. And if I angle it into the ITX rig, because it's got a rounded buttocks, a rounded hind end, I can slip it into the ITX. You see back here? It's got a rounded bum. That's what lets me get it into the ITX rig. So, Chibi PC is going from it went from a 3060 to a 3070 to a 3060 Ti. Yeah, that's an explanation, right? To a 4070 Ti now. I could put the 4070 Ti into the home theater PC. But that's already set up for triple the 3080 Ti, which is effectively the same thing. And the 4070 Ti, once it's upstairs in the office, will have in GPC will have 4K 144 hertz panels. So we can, whereas the home theater PC will always be 4K 120. And I'll have triple. That's another big thing is GPC will have triple 4K 144 hertz, and that is broken on 20 and 30 series. You can only use 2. There you go. If you guys ever want the most average graphics card ever, get a Zotac. Shit you not. I have never seen a more average graphics card than what Zotac had, and I have a couple of Zotacs now. I think my first one was a GT430 because they were the only ones to make a 4 gig. Or is that an EVGA? No. It would have been a GT. Yeah, it's a 430, but it has DisplayPort. Which at the time the only other NVIDIA graphics card with DisplayPort was the 570 Ti. So here's the tear strip. It's roughed up, but not torn. Like that is unopened, camera and camera person watching. I should probably just cut it right on that lip over there. I may do that to people as well. Like walk up behind me and go. Not this big one though. Usually it's one. Less so now. But you know, knives are fidgets. What can I say? Didn't make it all the way through. Almost. You seen the new blade? Yeah, it's 5080. I broke down. And I got one. Yeah, I think this blade, I don't think I ever flipped it. So we're flipping it. Because that thing took 3 times to cut through this already perforated cardboard. Hell nah. Alright. That's about as close as that's getting for now. Oh geez. Let's go back. We should probably finish the unboxing in one take here. Alright, so the box is open. PNY. They're kind of our go-to now with, you probably have heard me before, like Zotac. Yeah, if you need something small, PNY really does not make anything small. So if you need something that has actually I shouldn't say that, they have announced a 2-fan version of the 5080. Who knows if that's currently coming with the current market though. Who knows if it'll actually come out with the current market. I'm not going to take you guys over here. But we got $49.65 on Steel Nomad. And we were slightly behind the average on Speedway and where the average line is, but we are just exactly at the peak at Steel Nomad. So, like I said, these Zotac cards, and by the way, this is even with the auto overclock from NVIDIA app. The Zotac cards are like average AF. Only card I think I had that was more average than a Zotac was the BioStar 3070 that David has, but that one was at least like pretty efficient at doing that. Or David Squares, those wondering squares. He picked that up off me. Well, we traded back. He traded back his 2080 Ti for a 3070, and I asked him if he wanted to do it because I actually have use for the 2080 Ti again, and he could benefit from the better DLSS, the better. Ooh, this has been on a shelf or something for a while. You can see all the scratchies in the box. OC edition. Make sure you get that. Now, here is what I did not need, but I ended up getting. Frozen got a MSRP deal on a PNY. I was going to say stock. Nope, a PNY, a base edition PNY, though, but the OC edition, right? This is the Epic X version. So it's like the tier up. So these are normally $1,400. I got it. It was on sale, like after everything. It was like $1,285, $1,284, something in that range. Because they actually went on sale. I saw them, and they were out of stock. And I'm like, I'm guessing some people who bought these, like their payments might have slipped. Also, if you have, like some of the Best Buy carts work, like if it's in the cart, it kind of reserves it for you a little bit. Especially if you have their like Total Tech thing. At least that was a thing. So I was like, I'll just keep while I'm working refresh. And sure enough, refresh, it's back in stock. I snag it within hours after it's out of stock again. Now they're completely out of stock. Newegg has them back. $1,600. If you hear my fans going bananas, that is Port Royale causing the current 4070 Ti to go, 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 go. One thing I like about both of these PNY cards, 5080s, both the slightly lower end one and this one, is their true triple slot brackets. So 16 gigs, obviously, and that's why the 5070 Ti is basically going away. Basically, what they're saying is that if we're going to use 16 gigs, we're going to put the best core inside of it as possible, right? And like I said, Frozen got his 5080 during the holiday season for $1,000. And he had other deals that he had worked out through points and other stuff. But, you know, MSRP of $1,000. Really good price. Should have snagged them back then because I didn't know the market was going to go as crazy as it has. But the 5070 Ti's now are over $1,000. The PNY, even on Best Buy, PNY 5070 Ti, over $1,000. I don't know if that's a third-party seller because Newegg can now sell on Best Buy. Why do we even have these different places anymore? Like, what's even the fucking point? $1,400 on the nose for the Port Royale, and we are a sliver behind the average and a sliver ahead of the peak. Womp womp. Let me do some times by extreme here. Sealed. Double flapped. Velocity X software, not going to run that, or if I do, I will install it once, adjust the RGB, uninstall it, which is exactly what I did for the Zotac. I made it orange. Probably will need to make it red for GBPC. The cheapster. As corny as red is, so many parts are red, or at least back when I built it in 2017, I think. It's almost 10 years old. Alright, it shouldn't even say GBPC. That's just this current revision of GBPC with Ryzen 1700X it had originally. Now it's all on a 5800X 3D. Pair that with a 4070 Ti, that thing's going to be, you know. 5080 though in my desktop. Technically, you guys are going to be like, oh, well, that's got a 5950X. Like, that's going to be worse for gaming. I play at 4K, so unlikely. We just cut this. We've broken the seal. I remember the EVGAs where you could see the serial number from the outside of the box. Always was promising because then you could match the serial number of the card to the box. That baby is sealed. NVIDIA Quick Start Guide, PNY. Guys, you just slap her in. Wow, they couldn't even give you a booklet. It's the roadmap style. But it's like awkward, not square roadmap style. Get out of here. We know how to put graphics cards in. PNY, RTX 5080 OC, triple fan. Realistically, if I could have saved the rest of the money and gotten the non-RGB one, I think the cooler might be slightly smaller as well. Would have gone that route. But like I said, like there are no, the base 5080s are gone now because 5070 Ti's cost as much. What do we got in accessories? Okay, we have a GPU support stand, not really a bracket. And then we have the triple, because it's the OC version, the triple adapter to, that's not 12 volt high power, 12VH2 or whatever it is. I only have a 12 volt high power cable. It's going to have to use 12 volt high power. I will order a, the next time I order from Cable Mod, I will order the updated, because literally as soon as I got my 12 volt high power cable, oh, it's 12 volt 2x6. That's the new one. Like my 12 volt high power finally gets delivered because I finally ordered it. Remember, yada yada. I upgraded some of the other cables in my desktop, right? Because they need to be a little bit different, a little bit longer. And the next week or the next 2 weeks, 2 weeks later, the 12 volt 2x6 comes out, and I'm just like, oh well, fuck me. Oh, come on, big boy. Oh. Man, this is looking legit to me. Caution. ESD safe. Open it. Static free workstation. Well, that's over there. We may transition over there at some point. Unlucky. Alright, let's see if I can unstick this, otherwise a lot of these will tear. Yep. These are very hard to stick and unstick because they're like designed to tear. Just going to ground myself to my computer case and then not move. Oh, we have a breach. We have breached containment. Oh, this is, Frozen mentioned this, like it's so weird having this thing and then realizing that's the graphics card. Like only half your graphics card is actually graphics card. And then I was like, yeah, the 5090 is even weirder though. So, and this is a true 3-slot. It weighs a fucking ton. I think I already have a GPU support bracket in there. It's like a little Zotac one that's like a stand actually, rather than that little pin design. At some point I should probably do something a little bit better. The design that's in the full-size Fractal Torrent is really nice because it actually like goes into the plate that's behind like behind the GPU. That wall there. All right. Time Spy Extreme. 10,341. There you go. Average is 10,517. So like I said, Zotac, it manages it. Like it's less than the average, but it's just past that peak right there, right? Where that would kind of be like minimum. If you're doing worse than that, something's probably wrong with your setup. Usually it's just behind average, but just ahead of that peak. And that's been, well, I have two modern Zotacs around here, and I don't know, we probably used 5 total, because until PNY kind of stepped up their game at the 50 series. I am bummed to hell, though, that they didn't work with Kingpin. They should have. It just wasn't in the books, apparently. I still think they should. This is going to be annoying as hell to unplug, I'm realizing, because the clip is on this side, not on this top side. Ugh. Vomits. I feel like that opening also is not aligned with that plug. I feel like it should be over a little bit to be centered. Maybe I'm crazy. Alright, what do we got next for this? Fire Strike Ultra, sure. Run that sucker. Why am I only running 4K benchmarks? We've been over this. I play at 4K, so they're at least closer to. And why benchmark your own stuff? A lot of people be like, oh, because you can get benchmarks. That's what. Well, you want to know, yeah, look at other people's benchmarks, right? Compare yours to theirs. That's why 3D Mark is handy, is because it already has the database. If you're way off, and also you should benchmark before you overclock. Like if you're going to do some proper overclocking, not just the sliders in the GeForce app, but proper overclocking. Make sure you test it. I would at a minimum test it stock, if not also test it with the sliders, like the stock slider improvements. Like you want to make sure, like, and I ran into that. I forget which card it was, but I went straight into overclocking it, and I didn't even realize, like, it kept, it keeps falling off of the overclocks, keeps falling off the overclock. Like, why can't it maintain this? Like, I'm going way below, and then I start realizing I'm going below stock clocks. I'm like, what? I never tested it at stock settings. Which, had I, it wouldn't have passed. That's a chonky vapor chamber in there. Thermal pads on the VRAM. Like a big reason to avoid was it Gigabyte, is because they use like thermal putty that leaks out. I think it might be putty, might be something else, but basically their thermal solution leaks out either with a vertical mount, or if you're like, everybody always was like, oh, with the vertical mount. Well, I would actually argue, like in my home theater PC, the GPU is vertically mounted, but that's because the motherboard is horizontal. A lot of ITX builds will also be that way. So, okay, here's a pro tip to you, PNY. I know nobody's going to ever take my advice. If you require this shit to protect the shroud in transit because of all this shiny bullshit you put on it, don't put the shiny bullshit on it. Okay, that's fancy. It looks like there's not a peel on those. I would be goddamn surprised if there wasn't a peel. That's also weird. These spin. Why are we spending money engineering that? Please explain. For those wondering, if you want a 5080 in a server, Supermicro sells P&Y, because P&Y is also the one that makes what was the Quadros and now is like Ada. You can see right there too, they have integrated these 3 screws like this. That is the OEM bracket. When you design an OEM case, on the front part there will be 3 screws so that they don't need GPU support brackets. These 3 screws just screw straight into the front of the case. And with these being this long, they only had to add, what is that, 1/4 of an inch of a bracket there to it for it to span the entire width of a computer case. That is mad. 1,380 points in Firestrike Ultra. I want to say that's it. I mean, we can do CPU profile, I don't know how much that's going to help, but let's give her a shot, Paisley Marie. But yeah, do we really need logos that don't spin when the fan spins? That seems pointless and redundant. This is a thick boy. This is a what do we got here? 13 inches. For those wondering, this card used to be big at 10.5. Now 10.5 inches is considered small form factor compliant or compatible. Here's my a little bit dusty 3060 Ti. Now that's a reasonable size. That'd be considered a reasonable size graphics card nowadays. 2-slot, true 2-slot, and I think it's actually 11 inches, not 10.5. So I don't know if it would technically be small form factor compliant, but you're like, I thought that wasn't GPC. Well, it was. So they had to rip out GPC's cooler for another buddy who got a 5070, and he upgraded to a 5700X3D, and a 120mm AIO was not cutting it. We have it right up here. So what I did is to get him, because we had plans of 1 day and ended up going to 2, but we didn't have a cooler, so we gave him my Noctua NHD15 Gen 2, that's LBC, that's low base compact C for AMD. We ripped it out of GPC. You can look in there, there's no CPU cooler in there right now. And he just bought me another one. It was only in there for a couple months, so it's not like it's used or worn. Actually, GPC's been on hiatus over there because we don't have the second setup for it. So it really only gets plugged in when somebody needs it, or I need it for troubleshooting or testing, or somebody needs to borrow it. Forget who I lent it to for a LAN. But yeah. Where are we at now? We're at 4 threads. So as soon as this benchmark's done, I'm not doing a full suite on the 4070 Ti, because if I was going to lose it, like I was selling it or passing it along to somebody else, I would. But you know, in this case, I will still own it. And it'll be theoretically a more capable CPU, even if the motherboard isn't as capable, because it's a B350. You know, the fact that I can even jam that in there is a miracle in its own right? That is a man. I know I said if you're gonna make them big, make them big, but whew. So what we're going to be taking out here is that guy, and I have a feeling we're going to be going significantly further into the front of that case. And yes, you're like, what's that cord hanging out there? Well, that's for the second graphics card that was in there, the B580. However, it completely blocked that 4070 Ti, and I mean like cut it off, cut its airflow completely off. So had to pull it out. I'll have to find a different solution for additional monitors. Right now I'm at 3, but I was hoping to run, like, I'm gonna have a big TV on the wall once I'm back up in the office, and I'll have a little like ultra super wide auxiliary display. I wanted to run those off of the secondary card. Realistically, do I need a B580 for that? No, but to be truthful, I got that thing for MSRP, and I wanted Intel Arc, so that I could try and use it for acceleration. You know, because it has a different AV1 encoder than NVIDIA does. It's actually like more supported. I was also hoping I could do QuickSync. Right, QuickSync is from the CPU integrated graphics. Supposedly the stuff's in there. It's in the dedicated graphics cards. It's a matter of making, though, like, a lot of apps will not look at a dedicated graphics card for a feature that was previously only on integrated graphics. You know, but think about that. It'd be an AMD CPU mating an Intel, or mating an NVIDIA graphics card, also with an Intel graphics card. Like, it'd just be, and I actually got it set up and running. The problem is it didn't last for long because it was choking off, like, the B580, which is that box back there, was so perfectly fit the outline of the fans, right? Like, the other card's a little bit smaller. That's actually why I like Zotac, is like they managed to put effectively a similar power card in a smaller spot. It exactly matched the fans, and they do not make modern GPUs meant to be able to put multiple in a single system, really. So there you go. There's my CPU benchmark. Got a little bit of a bump on the max threads, and technically that is because it's 16 core hyper threaded, so you get a little bit more off that, right? And then going down from there. Part of that was just to compare to Frozen Slate's config as well. Frozen Slate, because we did his. He's also got a 5950. It should be interesting to compare. I'm running much slower, only 3200. And you're like, well, why is that? Well, this PC, minus now the graphics cards it's gone through, and I had to buy the CPU. Every other part of it, well, I guess the case. All the main components in the storage, and even some of the adapters I have for, like, I have a hot swap hard drive bay in there. That was all either from previous systems or motherboard was from an RMA. 28 Ti that was originally in there from an RMA. The power supply got upgraded from an RMA. Now it got upgraded from an RMA again. Like, it basically, I could have bought, like, I was building this when 7000 series AMD was out, but the reason is because the only part I needed to finish it was to decide what I wanted to build it in, and I chose the Fractal Pop Air in orange. Really amazing case. Pop Air 2, or Pop 2 Air, I'm not sure how I don't know about that, but, and buy a CPU. And I don't know at the time of doing this, I think I might have already bought the 5950 for like a bit ago, and I would have taken that still even after the 5800X 3D came out, because realistically for my workload, 8 cores minimum. So for my workloads, I should say, like, you can video edit on an 8 core, but holy hell, does it help to have more, right? Or in the case of, say you want to do some compression, you want to do some 7-zip compression, right? With a 16 core, you can let that run and go to whatever the fuck else you want. Maybe not game, but you know, no problem. Or when I was re-encoding my entire music collection per thread, remember 16 core, 32 thread processor, I can do 32 tracks at once. If I have that running on an NVMe, I can stuff so much data in and out of that, right? So now that we have our benchmarks done, normally if I was doing this complete thing, I'd do like all of the Uni Engine ones as well, maybe some of the other built-in game benchmarks, yada, 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 right? But not with this, because like I said, I'll be able to benchmark the 4070 Ti still, and I want to get the 5080 in here and actually be able to use the damn thing at some point. I gotta go into work tomorrow, so realistically I should be sitting down in about 45 minutes or so. That's my left hand, it's not as strong as my right hand. And not for that reason, because I'm trying to max out this clip. Here, maybe? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Oh, yeah. Okay, come on. Come on, yeah. Get those cables out of the way. Let's get you. Oh, it's not gonna hold, is it? Yeah, you like that with the headphones right in your way, right? Great photography. There you go. Just gotta move those out of the way temporarily. All right. I don't know where the screwdriver I'm gonna want to use went. I think it might be back in the living room by the server. So I'll use this one plus this one. All right. You've seen I've upgraded my flashlight game recently, but man, I'm still a headlamp guy. Headlamps are flashlights. I agree. Don't worry, I agree with your statement there. Just cleaned this up not that long ago. Taking off these two screws. It just pulls back. Use this same case for a number of other builds because it was like, I don't know, 60, 80 bucks, somewhere in that range. The new one is more. I think took out some defining features. Okay, so this one is also clip on the bottom, so I don't have to adjust my cable. Cable has no burning, no. That's a cable mod cable, pro cable, 12 volt high power, not 12 volt 2x6. I think technically speaking, the 40 series is 12 volt high power, not 12 volt 2x6. Anyway, but you know, just for clarification. Really like these really skinny 4mm. There's still Phillips too, but the shank of it is only 4mm. Amazing for building PCs. I think when somebody toured one of the PC SIs, they were also using them. Like it might have been like an iBuyPower or something like that. What I don't know if they're using the same thing I'm using, but it turns out that drywall screw guns might be why these exist, or initially existed, I should say. How am I gonna hit that fucking latch? And you're like, where is the latch? See, that is a great question, mind you. That is a great... There it is. There's the latch. Might be easier to take that out. Especially with I'm unfamiliar with that new 5080. I think I'm safer pulling out this top USB. It's not a hub, it's a header, or what I call a header. It basically plugs into the USB, internal USB header, and gives you more USB ports on the back. Oh my gosh, why is it so fucking tight though? It's tied into the, tied in the GPU somehow. Apparently it's fitted so tight that it's clipping it. I'm just trying to layer my cables so that hopefully, minus the GPU, the PC doesn't notice this change. Okay, got the USB 2 out of the way. Oddly, this one had to be modified. I had to get clipped off because it was hitting the rear I/O shield. Shaved that off with a utility blade. Best place to get these was EVGA. They were the only ones that had black ones. Black 4. You could get black 2s easy, 2 ports in black easy. 4 ports in black, man. Only place I know how to get it consistently was EVGA, and they were a reasonable price too. Why EVGA carried them in the first place, don't know. Back in the day, Antec and Corsair used to carry weird shit like that as well. I could be like, yeah, it's an accessory, and it's, but like, what the heck? Why do you have it? Like, what did you ship it with? You know, and you might be asking, why? I even have that. Well, that's USB 2 ports. Back with X570, brands stopped shipping their boards with USB 2 ports, and I have a number of devices, usually audio related, that just don't like USB 3, or you'll have weird issues. Like, I mean, this is not a small graphics card, right? But compared to what's about to go in here, it ain't big, that's for sure. I think the 3080 Ti was technically better, better potentially, as long as it doesn't use the newer protocols. Better than the 4070 Ti. Bigger, yes. More power, yes. There's a brand on Amazon that makes these solid PCIe covers in black. I used to have to get old school ones. What I mean by that is I would get, like, you know, from like Pentium 3, 4 era, solid, and then I'd paint them black myself. I mean, they're thicker than that, but the fact that I can just order a 10-pack of black solid PCI brackets, and I prefer the solid ones if I can get them. They're just much sturdier. A lot of times I only want the airflow to go where I want it to go. I don't want it to go like, okay, so for example, if you leave those vented below this GPU, it will pull air through it. I might even block off these vents back here because I want the airflow path to go a certain way. Get down. Whoa. You need a freaking lift for this thing, man. My gosh. Oh, why aren't you going in? Why aren't you going in? Seriously. We must be, yeah, we're on the outside of that back bracket. There we go. Like I said, why aren't you going in? Screwdriver. In the matter of screwdriver, this guy, Scout Leather Co., Bernally, big boy. This is the titanium one. I think I made a couple of those. I was pressing him on that. I actually tested the titanium one and let him know about issues I was having with his aluminum one, where I was actually the broaching was wearing out, which he was surprised at. I used it all the fucking time, especially when I was doing on-site work, and I would say that's probably when I rebuilt a lot of people's systems going to Ryzen. You know, Ryzen 2000. Nobody did I recommend Ryzen 1000, but 2000, and then especially 3000, and holy shit, 5000. But I think a lot of my friends went 2000 or 3000 first, and then upgraded to 5. Oh yeah, I totally forgot that I ended up getting a the newer, not the newest, not the Gen 5, but the Gen 4 Sabrent Rocket heatsink is under this tower cooler. And that's what finally stopped my M.2 from overheating. It's got, I think, dual or triple heat pipes on the dang thing. I forgot I buried that under there. Ripped off the stock one from the motherboard as it had no hope. I feel like when this motherboard, even though it's a Gen 4 drives were not out right away, so I have a feeling that, because this is like a first gen X570 board, there were later revised boards, like Frozen Slate's Razor Edition, and then even further revised ones that were X570S. I have one of those in the server right now. PG, not the PG Lightning. That's the X670 version. I don't remember. Yeah, I feel like, you know, like this doesn't have USB 2. On the Razor Edition, they fixed that. I think you got 2 USB 2 ports, PS2 port. They brought a lot of this stuff back. And I feel like it came back for X670, and if you want that now, you gotta spend $500 or more on a X870E, which nobody needs because that's for multi-GPU. Oh, did I forget to peel the side of this? I'm betting I did. Yep. Stop making things shiny. Then I don't have to peel off protective layers. Companies, this is not just PNY. Oh, Pazer, what are you doing up there? There's a kitten on my desk who's trying to take my tape schnibbles, and I don't want to put that up there, otherwise she's probably going to steal it and eat it. Put it in my pocket. Alright, let's get this 12-volt high power plugged in. Hey. I feel like that adapter had all the power pins in it, whereas this thing only has 2. Intriguing. Oh, that came off. Hold on. There's like a little cable shield that helps it bend better. And this thing is kind of trained a little bit since the port on the 4070 Ti was a little bit more You have that tight. It's a little twisted. I think that's how we got it to look clean. If I untwist this, it's gonna look all, maybe not. I may have also needed that twist back when the B580 was in there. Yeah, when I pull it out, I'm pulling on the card. So that's usually a good indication that it's in there. Alright. It's a little bit cleaner, actually. But yeah, the reason I can't do that permanently is that would go right in the fans of whatever graphics card is soon to be in there. Then I can take this guy. I got adjust it because I might have been Paisley's still in the chair. Maybe that was Gertrude. I was not like hitting, but like rubbing slash. I don't have to lay on my side again. This is why normally you would pull this shit out to do this, but that's how many cables are in this setup. I ain't doing that. There is a little bit of dust in the bottom of this thing, I'm realizing. I blew it out very well, but the dust that's sort of in the bottom of this right now is the kind that you would have to wipe out with like a microfiber. If not even like a wet wipe, like a tub of towel if you're careful enough, right? That's just sliding around because of this dust that's in there. All right, I got my little stand in there. Made sure the little, what? It shouldn't be on the fan. Oh, I guess it was on the fan. 12-volt high power is now on the fan. Lovely. Yeah, so I mean, might be able to go up a, no, it's definitely up a half. So these fans also, didn't realize this, they have the outer ring that spins with the fan that I'm hitting right now with this stand ever so slightly, which is also with the 12-volt high power cable coming through below it is hitting. And I mean, there's not much I can do about that. Catch my drift, catch my gist. Probably need to do a zip tie or something to keep this shit out of. It's rubbing right now. Just keep it down. What would I even hook to though? I have to probably put a stick-on tie down in. I wonder if I just take one of these. of these, I mean cable combs. It helped. There's still not anything, like, I need something to push it down. Previously the other GPU would have done that. Hopefully it stays out of the way. Alright. So, here is, I think you guys still have a good view. Alright. Yeah, let's do a 2x and pivot you. So that is 5080, right? Something else that somebody noted that was interesting about PNY is they are one of the few places that I don't know if it's allowed to or at least does put on the model here. EVGA used to do that as well. Zotac, if you look, just uses GeForce RTX. Now that could be a cost-saving measure, as in they can make a completely separate, put that out there like that maybe. It actually doesn't look that much longer, like in actuality, but this I can fit my hand around. I can't that one. That was also the Spooderman edition, I was wondering. This is cleaner than some of my computers, especially the server. But dang, it could probably use another clean and maybe something a little bit more thorough. Where I actually wipe down the vent. I mean the front filter is a bit parrot. And basically the where stuff is settled, especially on the PSU shroud, is that could use some attention. But otherwise, because it's filtered properly, even though it looks quite dirty and dusty down here, which it is, we're in a basement that's been doubling as the office and the bed. Like on this front filter, it's actually like I probably have to go with that with a cloth on it, because it's actually like embedded. Dust. This guy, love Fractal's design. They were one of the first to do this, where they have a framed piece of tempered glass. And they made it very easy on the pop. There's notches, you put it in the bottom, right? And you push it up like this, push your own back, it goes in. Way simpler. So many of those things out there. The cheapy ones, 4 screws in the corner. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, we just have dust in the basement in general. Our ducts, figure that out. I'm thinking once we get up in the office, I may look into a air purifier or something. One of those ones that like statically collects it or something, because I don't know. And yes, I change the filters regularly on the furnace, etc. I mean, I'm sure you guys are like, oh, it's cleaner than many. Yeah. There you go. There's the RGB that we need to kill with a burning passion. I need to make that solid orange ASAP. I kind of miss graphics. Oh. Can you tell that we need a driver? Graphics driver, that is. I did update my BIOS for this because I've been waiting on a pending BIOS update for this motherboard for a while. Let me turn off this light. Hey, look, it got the Windows default driver. One thing that did happen though is that Paisley, you're not supposed to be sleeping on this chair in general. Yep. Ugh. You can sit on my lap. Just signed in. Literally the only reason why I use the Logitech Brio for those watching up there. I only got that because it was supposed to be good and it wasn't. The only reason I have the Logitech Brio up here is because of the face sign-in. It's literally it. That and everything I own, including what you're watching on right now. This Pixel 9 Pro is shooting 4K 30. Still overheats in 4K 60, but we're over an hour. No sweat. They finally nailed that. I gotta figure out that because every time I say install update and it fails, I'm just gonna say skip version. That's the third time. I didn't realize that it was missing constantly. Or it was failing to update, so I just hit yes and assume it did it. It's not. But yeah, so that was the first, like one of, if not the first 4K webcams. It's 4K 30. It's actually like cinema 4K 30, not 3840. You can set it to 3840 by 2160, but it's actually like 4960 by 2160. The reason why it's stuck around so long is everything around here, my Panasonic camera, my Sony little camera, I'm forgetting the name. It's often in the description. They've discontinued the line, and I love that little thing. It's like a Studio GoPro, basically. And like everything all the way back to the Pixel 3 shot at 4K 30. I think I have some other stuff around here as well. And then what I can do is if I'm doing capture of like basic desktop stuff too, I can just do that at 4K 30. Then I don't have to fuck around with differing frame rates and differing content. So that's why that sticks around. I don't have to resize shit then, etc. We're going to check for a driver update. There isn't one. I think we have to switch to Game Ready. Normally I prefer Studio, but not that I care about these. And to be truthful, once there's a new Studio driver, I will probably switch back. I'll use that as a chance to switch back. But I need a new driver, or I need to reinstall the driver technically for that thing. And if I want to reinstall the driver for that abomination, vomits in unicorn, I might as well go one newer here, right? We need to actually... Alright. Well, I don't remember if I took shots for... Okay, new graphics driver, you should do a custom clean installation. The other time you should do that is on the first install of your driver. Being that we're going NVIDIA to NVIDIA, I'm not using DDU unless there's some issue we run into. Because we're all in the same driver architecture and stuff like that, currently like 40 to 50. However, I still want to do a clean install because it's going to reset a bunch of settings. It can reset settings for games. I have my Call of Duty tweaked how I like it at the moment, and I don't know that I've... well, do we quick go in there? Alright, we're going to leave that up. I'm going to quick go into Call of Duty. Hopefully it allows me to load it. Oh, and I actually do have Call of Duty settings that I did on the 4070 Ti when I was tweaking the new DLSS 4.5. So we do have some comparison in Call of Duty with my settings pertaining, I can screenshot them and make sure I set them back up. I know in this, there's not that many hours in this specific. No, it wants to change my settings. And what I mean by no is, like I don't want it to reset. It thinks it's being helpful. Call of Duty almost never crashes because of the settings that I use. It crashes because it's a piece of... Oh, I got somebody. Ha ha! Suck it. That's right. Yeah, I usually only play on Friday, guys. So, and then I report people. Often I'll hop on Tuesday, which is what it is today, because then that's an update. Oh, we're doing shaders right now, which is fine. All right. Let's get our arm. Let's move our arm up. Let's... Oh, hey, there's the Pocari Sweat. I'm gonna take a swig. Oh, geez, come on, you. Oh, geez. Don't fall, Mr. Clippy Clamp. You don't need to fall. You're such a great Mr. Clippy Clamp. Don't fail me now. You guys are a little bit drunk. You're swaying. You're leaning back. I don't really have a way to solve that, I don't think. Oh, jeez. Oh. What if I put you over here? There you go, over my right shoulder. Should we zoom in? 2x? Sure. I don't know if that's really any better, but that's what we're going with. I just need 2 hands to actually be able to take. Some of my settings are probably not the settings that the people on the interwebs are going to tell you, because full screen borderless is what you should be doing. In anything since Windows 8, basically. There we go. We have NVIDIA Reflex, low latency. Yep, on plus boost, always. I don't know why Enter is opening that instead of this. Drunk, I guess. I do eco mode, but it's not a preset. I don't desync anything. I use custom frame rate. You want it slightly below or max frame rate, since I'm using G-Sync. Realistically, you would want it anyway, even without G-Sync. I'm doing 235 since my max is 240. Not that I ever get there. Menu out of focus, I leave at 30. Menu, the lowest you can go is 30. You can go out of focus down to like 10 or 5, I think. It gets kind of wonky when it comes up from those single digit frame rates. You can really reduce, like if you idle a lot in the menu and you want to save power, like you're in an area where power costs a lot, yeah, you can reduce the quality of the menus like a lot and reduce it down to like nothing for the frame rate. HDR, I'm gonna run on. Currently HDR is off because remember we were benchmarking before and it kind of messes with 3D Mark because they don't necessarily have an HDR benchmark. They have ray tracing as well as other stuff, but they don't have HDR specific. So that's kind of what that setting is there. And here, custom graphics preset. I was running balanced back in I think in the three Modern Warfare 3 to to no, the graphics in Modern Warfare 3 got like rebalanced or redone at some point, like one of the early seasons, and I had to go from quality to balanced in order to get what I was looking at for DLSS. Now with the new model, though, I'm actually running performance. I get lower frame rate with performance model than I do balanced. And you're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. It does with the new models. Performance actually does look better. It was a little crunchy to my eyes at first, but it does look better. You gotta make sure you're on transformer, and then you can override it in the NVIDIA driver. I was running, when I was doing balanced, I was running FrameGen on. There's this weird thing with FrameGen where it has to like buffer at the beginning of each matches, which was really causing issues. Also in the benchmarking, it showed that though I got like 50% boost in frames, I also had I had much higher highs, but also much lower lows. Weird. No idea why that's related. Right? And maybe some of you guys can tell me down below. So what I found, at least 4070 Ti, now that I could have the performance model, is I was getting like within, at least in their benchmarks, within 1 to 2 frames between all the scenes with the performance model, whereas with balanced with, and then it was accentuated, or sorry, without FrameGen, we were going like 20, 30 plus FPS difference, right? With FrameGen, it might be even more between scenes. Maybe not 20, 30. It might have been 20, 30 with FrameGen on. Either way, it was smoother without FrameGen. That maybe because of how the frames were presented. Now 50 series does have hardware in here. I'm unsure if Black Ops 7 can take advantage of the hardware where it actually spaces out and times those generated frames. Otherwise, I went through, like somebody, I was on Reddit, they had a YouTube video as well. They went through each setting and like how it affects what, etc. They didn't have any recommendations for 4070 Ti. That's higher than what they were doing recommendations for, because that's much higher than your average person or your average configuration. Even with a 5080, I'm going to tell you, there are going to be certain settings, like there was one setting in here that just dropping it down one step from what the recommended settings were from Call of Duty gained you 22% performance. You know, kind of nutty. FrameGen, ray tracing reflection, so you get shader quality. There we go. Okay, terrain quality. And the reason why I'm screenshotting all of these is because I want to be able to put it back. If the custom clean installed version, often that has a very good chance of resetting your game settings. It says your driver settings. Sometimes those go hand in hand. I have, since MW2 on the new engine, run 120 FOV, just max it out basically. Prior to that, I was running 105. That came from Destiny. I think that was the max. I don't know if they've raised it since then, but back when I played with Squares, that was the max FOV in there. So there we have a benchmark. We're not going to run that, but we have all of the settings now. Now I feel much more safe. And you're like, what about your other games? I rarely play them. I do, but rarely. And I don't even think the other games had been set up for the 4070 Ti yet, to be truthful. Or it's Arkanoid Eternal Battle, which obviously no way I could run that maxed out on the 4070 Ti or the 5080. Come on, the game's way too hard to run. Or Vampire Survivors, right? Like, psh, we have to run that on low. Right? Almost 2. Thanks for hanging around here, guys. we're gonna get this installed. We're gonna get it restarted, and I'll probably have to tweak a bunch of settings because it's resetting all the driver settings. But I should be able to run one 3D Mark benchmark for all of you. Usually, if you are not having any problems whatsoever with your with your driver or with your graphics card, or you're not trying to troubleshoot anything, just use Express. If everything's working, I wouldn't let it auto install drivers because realistically, unless you're going to gain something from the new graphics driver, don't bother installing it. Why do I think it's such a big deal right now? Well, because every driver and even every NVIDIA app update, NVIDIA has been dropping since probably December, has been massive. Massive fixes, massive changes, massive everything. Massive. So yes, take it. But otherwise, when it comes to once they more stabilize, excuse me, I'll let dust actually coming out of my nose, being down there. But once they stabilize, the I don't know if that restarted. That's still restarting. Once they stabilize their like update cadence, and they're only updating for games rather than all these like DLSS 4.5 and I forget what, there were a ton of fixes in December, you know, that sort of stuff. Only update if the game that you're playing needs it, or if you need, like I personally also would run studio drivers unless you need the game ready drivers for some reason. They're much more stable. You get better performance in your professional applications. In some cases, it'll allow you to, using the studio driver, will allow you to run applications that would previously have required like what would have been a Quadro, which is now an 8.0, whatever. I don't know why they changed that. Just like we have RTX or GTX, then we had RTX, which is fine, you know, because they wanted to change that up. Quadro was like, yeah, that's our desktop workstation card. I don't know why they had to muck around with that, but yeah, there you go. We don't have a driver again because it should install on that's even worse resolution. Look at that potato-ness. But I need to get more. I mean, I have more images for the backgrounds, but I have not spent time. If you guys are wondering why do I have cycling backgrounds, OLED. So one way to treat OLED, like I do in the home theater PC, is black, no background, no icons on the desktop. The other way to do it is how I'm doing it here, which is cycle it every so often so you can't get burned. Right? There's not a singular image. Oh god, that's so potato. Didn't expect it to be that potato. We may require one more restart, sadly. Like I said, don't do custom clean install. I wouldn't do a custom install, and I wouldn't do a clean install if everything's working. The only time would be for sure on a new PC setup, because ideally you have not connected that to the, never installed the new driver. It just uninstalled the old one. Lovely. Clean install. Is it gonna let me? Didn't you? Like if you do it on a new system, brand new system, which hopefully hasn't been connected to the internet, you put that stuff on your flash drive or your external SSD or you know, even you can even put it on the flash drive that you use to install Windows. Like make a subfolder in there. Don't name it like drivers. There's certain ones that Windows will actually grab and try to like do on its own. You know, or like install. That would be like another common name. I don't know if Windows grabs those necessarily, but there are certain imaging tools that if a certain folder's there, it'll try to automatically install and set those up. Which you're like, oh, that's good. It's being helpful. Yeah, unless you intended for that though, like you could build your own image with your own drivers in. If you're doing a ton of systems, I've done it before. Otherwise, don't mess around with it. Often I use just the name of the computer, and then like every computer for me has a version. When it gets a significant upgrade, like a CPU replacement or a graphics card replacement, that's usually a 0.5 upgrade. Small changes, like especially usually the numbers only change though when you have to reinstall Windows, right? As well. Um, so each reinstall Windows is a 0.1, right? Then usually reinstall Windows and a graphics card upgrade. That's going to be a 0.5 upgrade. Or and that's why we're on Anthrax X. It's Anthrax 10, Anthrax revision 10. Built the first PC in 2006. Not I shouldn't say that. I didn't build my first PC in 2006. I built my own first personal PC for myself from scratch, not like an upgraded SI machine, in 2006. And that was specifically because of Windows Vista and DirectX 10. I wanted to be able to have all the features, right? 8 gigs of RAM. I think I still had a dual core initially. Later went to a quad core, but like two real cores. Core 2 Duo, 8800 GTS. I think it was 8 gigs of RAM out of the gate. You needed at least 4, otherwise why run 64-bit? But a lot of people are already running 4 on XP 32-bit, right? So you got to keep that in mind. We're going to restart one more time because restarting is pretty painless around here. But yeah, so there have been 10. This is the 10th revision. A lot of you have probably seen Anthrax 7. That was a big one on the LTT forums. And then Nanoxia case first. I think that's my first full water cooled system. Previous to that, it was either only GPU or only CPU. 8 and 9 were, those kind of blended together. 9 did not last long because remember how I mentioned all those RMAs with failed hardware? Yeah, it did not stay in that configuration very long, I think. Or was it 8? Might have been the other way around. Yeah, you're trying to find me, Windows. Yeah. Couldn't turn the camera on. I think you can turn the camera on. I think it just is being dumb and you have to unplug and replug it. And now I bet when I go to it, yep, look at that. Once every 10 reboots that happens with that thing. I don't know why. Like basically I was getting the light that the camera was on, but the little red IR LED flat, like I guess the red LED, you wouldn't be able to see the IR LED. I don't know if it's, I think it should be using IR. But the red light wasn't flashing. That's the one that shows that it's using Windows Hello, or the face recognition stuff. So the camera just turned on. So the computer's like, duh, I'm gonna use the camera. unplug it, plug it back in. It's fine. Another brand that I really like for cameras that it's Nextgo. You're like, oh, they usually because LTT advertises. Yes, that's how I found out about them. Very true. Really cool stuff though. Like I have a PTZ one over there we use for live streaming. Follows you around. And the menu, it's like for a conference room, so the menu's in the camera. Like, why aren't you using that here then? By the way, it's also 4K 30. So even though there are higher resolutions than 4K 30, I was talking with Royalty Audio. Royalty Auto. If I said audio, that's wrong. And they were asking some stuff about, like, they were seeing weird stuff with HDR or having complaints, and oh, it's not smooth enough, or you should shoot in smoother. And I don't know for sure if they took my advice, but shortly after that, like, I put a big comment down there and explained, like, okay, here's where I'm not telling you to choose 4K 30. What I'm telling you to choose is what camera / device are you using. What do all the platforms that you go to use? You know, if you're using all the social media platforms, what's the common one between all of them? And like, what's commonality between all your cameras, etc. Like, the easiest way is just standardize that as long as it's reasonable. Like, if it's 1080p 30, okay, get out of here. You gotta have some potato in there someplace. But editing and exporting HDR properly, really not a thing. A lot of the HDR videos that you'll see your phone screen just boof, smash you in the face with brightness. That is actually because people they recorded in HDR and just uploaded straight to YouTube. That works. The problem comes in the instant you want to edit it, even on the phone itself. It becomes a problem. And I found that with Pixel 7 Pro. I don't know if the 9 Pro was doing it. I might have commented on it on earlier videos. But basically, it takes HDR photos, but then as soon as you edited it, right, it would get rid of the HDR. And it would piss me off to no end, to the point where I turned it off. Even though it gave way better color depth on, like, their version, but then you would edit off the raw, which you're like, oh, that sounds better because you're using a better source. Yes, I would agree, except they would not reapply whatever Google Pixel HDR algorithm they had used to the original JPEG. And unless you shot both, you would never notice, probably. All right. I like Speedway because I think even Jay's 2 cents found with his testing that it's one of the ones that I have found to, if you're gonna cause a PC to go, it's gonna be the one to do it. There are certain scenes in here that unstable hardware does not like. Right as they leave here too, I don't know if it winds down or what it does, but like right there, I would have it crash. I don't know if and it's, or maybe I think it was right as that door was opening, if I recall correctly. I could do it across 2 different systems. Very, very. Oh. Showing results from the same hardware. Speedway score weak. What? What happened? Also, there can't not be data available. Frozen has this setup. I would have taken pictures of this with the snipping tool, wouldn't I have? Modified. Alright. So, Oh. Yeah. About that. It's odd that they're saying that this specific combo hasn't happened or isn't. They're saying no data available, basically. Like they have no comparison data in their database, and maybe that's because this one is that like the Epic X version. Maybe apparently somebody's never paired it with a 5950X. I highly doubt, or maybe it's on this graphics version, like this graphics driver version. That just seems weird to me. But hey, that's a, what was that? We got a 5561 divided by 922. I mean, we're getting on to like not 100%, but damn. Okay, a little bit worse than a little bit. So that's 60% performance. So we gotta do it the other way. I keep short-term memory loss, guys. No. $1.65. So we're getting, at least in this, I was thinking at least 50% in performance boost, and this is not on a 90 series card. I would just like to clarify that. Let's see if that matches up in Still Nomad, because that's what I was like, oh, that's more than 50%. It's like 50-60% when Frozen and I were doing like, he was comparing his card against my 4070 Ti, just because we, like, I knew my system, he's running the same CPU as me. You know, and then when it comes to game feel as well, you know, like if I know at 4K what I'm getting and somebody else wants to do that, and they're asking if a certain card is, if I can get a scaled percentage, sort of like, hey, this card is half as fast as a 4070 Ti, I'm going to be like, if I'm already using my settings in COD and you play COD and I'm running performance DLSS, okay, you're going to be running ultra performance DLSS, or maybe don't do it in 4K. You know what I mean? Back with the 2080 Ti, that was the first, at least of the era, the first graphics card for me that could do 4K 60 as a single card. And I mean, I dialed shit in. Like Borderlands 3 had that thing dialed in, so because I didn't have a G-Sync or a FreeSync monitor at the time, so I made sure it was always above 60. And you could do it. And yeah, it might not have been maxed out. I'm not looking for that. There are obviously many settings that you can often turn down without much, you know, like visual quality loss. You know, like traditionally back then I would have ran no AA, which is kind of where DLSS comes in, because in the process of doing DLSS, it would do AA, you know, which is a, okay. We are behind the average. A lot of that, I still have this feeling, and I may need to reinstall Windows to deal with it. But I have this feeling that a lot of that has to do with the either the CPU, because I'm doing a 5950, right? And there's stuff out there now with way more IPC. Was that a 4965? Also, I have not tweaked this at all. So it's I mean, like it's 1.75. So that's, like I said, 50% in my opinion is, at least for graphics cards. CPUs, you're seeing 50% performance in a CPU. That's going to be a rarity, if ever, right? We'll do one last one here with Port Royal. That's the one that really got the cards spinning up last time. The 4070 Ti. But yeah, when I saw the 5080 performance was more than 50% higher than a 4070 Ti, and a 4070 Ti isn't slouching because that's trading blows with a 3080 Ti. I would still consider nowadays a 3080 Ti to be a decent card. I would actually argue a 2080 Ti. I mean, granted, that's on par with a 3070 now, but 1440p, fine. You know, it's kind of right in that ballpark there. I have been noticing on newer games though as well, that the 12 gigs of VRAM at 4K. Now I often don't run maxed out settings, right? So it's not like a problem, but especially if I have something else running. Like often I will leave. You're like, what do you mean you leave someone else running while you game? You won't get the best performance. But I feel like it'd be a waste of time for me to just put 3 hours into gaming and like not have something else going on. You know, so other stuff's taking up some VRAM. Windows takes up some VRAM, etc. With the 12 gigs, it was getting it close because there are games that take more than 8, right? But then if you toss Windows and having some other stuff open that can leverage the GPU, you're like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that because you're not getting the best frame rate. I'm still getting it's just nipping at it, Yeah, having Photoshop open while you're gaming will or Lightroom will lower the performance, but as long as you're not actively processing something, I'd rather in between games be able to go poke around at stuff than this card is a hell of a lot quieter than the 4070 Ti. I don't know if you guys heard the 4070 Ti spin up for this last time, but holy Jesus, it's quieter. And yep, we're just doing synthetics. For me, it'll be the COD benchmark, as long as the settings haven't changed. For that, I will have to turn HDR back on because I play with HDR on. But I'm going to leave you guys with this benchmark here once we have it. Alright. I think that first one was a fluke. I'll probably rerun it because I believe these other ones so far have had, like, this might have just been a fluke because it was the first one I put in with a 5080 with this CPU. Now this one I'm above average. The Steel Nomad I was below average. I don't know what to tell you there. So let's see. Coke 23,347 divided by, what do we got here? We got 1,400. Yeah, like, or 1,400, 14,000. 1.66. So in synthetics, I think the lowest we had was about 65% faster. Right? That's significant. I'm telling you. I'm telling you that's nothing to throw a stick at, Or that's really shake a stick at, You know what I mean. You know where I was going with that. I do need to solve that RGB disco. Probably not gonna happen tonight. I gotta go legally watch some anime. And yeah, but that is a huge improvement. Like I said, I'd been watching these because I after I'd heard about, you know, like, they're not saying, and like, I mean, they retracted. Asus said out of, where was it? That was Australia, so that's my brain is farting, but that region's called something. Usually that includes the other, like, smaller Southeast Asian island countries in there as well. In many cases, but basically they had said the 5070 Ti, well, they weren't going to make any more, and they were canceling, and they were also canceling the 16 gig 5060 Ti. Technically, they came out saying they're not canceling it, and here's the thing. But other companies have literally came out and said, is if we have 16 gigs of VRAM, we're going to chop it in half and make 2 graphics cards of that tier, if that's possible, or we're going to make one of the more expensive ones with 16. So that it's not that the 5070 Ti 16 gig isn't going to exist, or like it'll still exist as a SKU, but effectively they're going to make as many 5080s instead as possible. And with the 5070 Ti price inching up into 5080 territory, like base OEM reference 5080 territory, and also 5080s starting to like be hard to find on the market, I would say. The fact that I was noticing some of these PNYs were still in stock at Best Buy at their MSRP $1,400 price, which is $400 over MSRP from NVIDIA. But then this one decreased and they like gone instantly. I should have been a little bit quicker, but then I was like, you know what, I'm going to keep refreshing. And a lot of you may not know this, but like some people will buy things and not know they have enough credit, or it'll cancel it, or they'll cancel their order, or, you know, so I just kept, and I snagged one. So they're gone now completely. The other thing that kind of pushed me towards 5080s with all this stuff is I didn't realize like how, like, we're getting into the point where these places are saying like, well, they're sold through this year's amount of memory already, or amount of NAND already, right? Which is crazy. And little bit of a split decision. If I would have known more, I should have bought it back when Frozen did and got one for $1,000, because I don't need this upgraded model by any means. But rather pay that money now and use it than, because like I said, these are already going for like $1,650, I think, on Newegg, so they're up in price. Whereas at least Best Buy, I don't know why they were on sale. It was this weird thing. You know, I don't know if it was because Newegg had them listed and they were out of stock, and then they had them listed on Best Buy, but then weird stuff. That's the only thing out now is like a lot of I feel like the Google shopping thing has gotten worse because they'll give you like prices for shit, but then you'll go there and it's like unavailable. That's the only thing. Like B&H had like contact them. They just didn't have any. The local Micro Center straight up didn't have anything above a certain tier of card. So the fact that this was even still available, like I said, I have a perfect place where this guy's going into Chibi PC. It's going to be a huge upgrade from that 3060 Ti. Don't know if it necessarily needs it, but it'll be able to take advantage of it, especially pushing those triple 4K 144 hertz IPS displays. Excuse me. And then we can kind of shift down. I don't know if I'm going to pull the 1650 out of the server or not, but the 3050 and the repair PC over there, pretending I have enough power cables, because I think the 3060 Ti takes 2, and we'll go in there. It'll get a nice buff from its 3050, right? And then that 3050 theoretically could go in the server or in the backup server. You know, that's my 3050. I got 4 MSRP, which I believe is $250. They have 4050s. No, there was no 4050. 5050s that now go for that. So I was getting 3060s, which is interesting. Like that's what I ended up getting my dad off of Frozen when he upgraded his home. He passed his 3080 from his desktop to his former home theater PC, now sim rig, so that 3060 freed up. Turns out 5050s are readily available. So, but what's interesting is the 3060 is definitely still viable, and that's what we can get a good deal on because it's used. But I can see why NVIDIA is putting them back in production. It's kind of like, in my opinion, from my experience, the minimum spec, if you want to be able to use all the current features from NVIDIA, of the driver, of the software, that sort of stuff, 3060 is kind of like checks all the boxes, right? Except for maybe frame gen. Theoretically, though, they've even said that that's possible. So who knows if they'll do it. Just like technically, I believe they've said rebar on 20 series is possible. Never saw that update, though. Questions, comments down below, I guess. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this entire experience. That beginning with the unboxing for sure was to cover my own ass. It's legit. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.